everybody, and welcome. I'm here in the house today because it is especially cold, and I wanted to go over the three things that I can do in the winter for gardening, anyways, while I'm stuck in the house doing college work. And I want to use this video too to at least share a little bit about myself, so people have an idea of where I'm coming from. But I'll kind of wrap all that stuff in. But the first thing that I've found to do in the winter is actually read books, which is kind of crazy. One book I've found very interesting, and it keeps coming up in my personal life because I'm a master gardener for my county, and I'm also in a bachelor's degree program for sustainability. So this book is by Tal Orion, and it gives you such a great new perspective on invasive species and where they come from, the history of them, what makes a plant learn or earn the classification of invasive. It really just changes your whole perspective, because there are different types of invasive species. Obviously, there's nitrogen fixers, which are generally on that list, but there's like a scale to it. Some of these like honeysuckle and some of these other plants actively overwhelm other species because they're growing so well. I don't know if that, it's a judgment call to say if they're bad or not. There are some situations where it's just horrendous and man has to come in and try to control that situation. I generally stay away from trying to control nature. It's a lot more sophisticated, and there's a lot more going on to it than my little brain can reason out. However, if I have a goal in a certain area and I see that my plants are struggling because of this and that, I can try to cut back or trim or other mechanical methods. I definitely do not use chemical methods, at least on my properties. And if you've seen my videos, a couple of my videos recently about the chicken coop have actually increased my viewership by quite a lot. But that was at my home. That's in my backyard. That's a half-acre property. I also have another small single lot. My other property on the other side of town is more of a showcase property. Obviously, I'm using it to grow my own food and try out different methods of sheep mulching, things like that. But I'd like to use that property to showcase. Even if you have a single lot and you have a house, which over there you can see there's a huge section of wood chips where the house used to be. That's why there's nothing growing there, because now there's rock and sediment and stuff under the ground. So I can't grow anything there yet. However, around it I have 150 feet of plantable area where there's elderberries and strawberries, and there's pear trees over there. All those areas, I don't use chemicals or anything like that. I try to plant into those areas what I want to grow, what I want to eat, what I want, flowers for pollinators and insects and all these other things. Try to make it rebuild an ecosystem is really the goal, while providing food for myself and others. The other book, if you don't want to read the textbook for permaculture, if you read this Introduction to Permaculture by Bill Mollison, they do a very good job, and they have a lot of different sketches and ideas and plans, things like that. This is an excellent book. It's very easy to read. I'm not one for reading textbooks, and I want it to be interesting. But this one's very easy the chapters are easily identifiable. They're short and concise, and they're full of information. It's almost like a book that I could read just a couple pages a day and get a lot of benefit out of. This one is more of a nightly reader. The other thing that I wanted to show you is, there it is. Okay, the other thing I wanted to show you was something that I've done the last 3 years. I've ordered plants through my local county soil and water conservation district. So they have evergreen trees, eastern white pine, spruce, and white cedar. There's 3 different deciduous trees. There's a bunch of flowering trees and native wildflowers. And they give descriptions for my county. And there's a form it comes out every January. So the good thing about this, and the thing to keep in mind about the soil and water conservation districts, is they are highly focused on native plants to rebuild native ecosystems. After you read this, you'll have a different idea of what that means. However, this is a good thing because since they're more focused on pollinators and you know, strengthening soil structure, things like that with plants, they can sell American elderberries, black chokeberries, which are aronia berries, and Allegheny service berries, and they cost $3 each. I can get a 2 foot tall Allegheny service berry for $3, and I can order as many of those as I want. One thing I did last year to fill in some of the extra spaces at my other property was to order a lot of these native flowers. So I got marsh milkweed and Goldix Alexander, columbine, all that stuff. And I've also accidentally maybe put myself on the mailing list for other counties, not only in Indiana but also Minnesota. So when I get the one from Minnesota, I'll have to place an order, and I'll make a visit to my family up there, and I'll plant some more. The third thing was, you can see how I keep my notes and lists. Oh, the last one was for making a rough sketch or plan or idea, at least getting down on paper what my plans are for the next year. Depending on where you're starting, if you have nothing, maybe that just includes maybe starting some seeds in a window, going to a plant sale in the spring and just buying a couple of tomato plants and put them in a pot. If you do have an area, I know with my backyard, when I started, I went completely full bore and just stopped mowing. And then, several months down the road, then I started mowing some pathways, and I started planting bushes. And, this last year was a huge planting season, and we're doing nut trees this year. But I just as well could have done similar to my other property. I could have started off with an area that was 4 foot by 8 foot, whatever you want, and I could have sheet mulched it. And I could have planted a couple of these elderberry trees, elderberry bushes. That wouldn't have taken up too much space, but I could have practiced planting. I could have practiced the three main things that I always focus on is covering the soil, controlling water, and then planting as much as possible. So that's a great thing to do because it keeps the goal of the planting smaller. It stops the project from being too big. One of the reasons why I've planted so much, even though it's quite a large area, is I've simplified the planting process because the soils on my properties are so soft and they contain a lot more moisture, so it makes it a lot easier to dig. And I just grab a simple hand shovel, no matter if it's a tree or a bush, and I just scoop out some dirt and plop it in and then water it in. So I keep the process really, really easy. There were plenty of times I'd come back from work or whatever, and there'd be boxes outside my door. I'd be like, well, I got a half an hour, let me go plant 6 peach trees. And it really would only take, half an hour. I would just randomly pick spots. Maybe not randomly, but, it's just trying to spread it out because half an acre, quite a large area. Now I've planted 40 fruit trees and probably about 60 different berry bushes and 25 pine and cedar trees. I also have 600 to 800 maple trees that are springing up. However, it seemed half an acre just seems like a huge area, and that plant number seems like a huge amount, but I still see holes everywhere. So hopefully this year will be a banger year for growth, and it'll fill in a lot of the spaces, and I won't feel like there's so much empty space that just needs to be filled. So that's I'm gonna wrap it up there. I have some homework to do. Thank you all for watching, and have a great day. Bye-bye.